Okay, I guess we're ready to start here. If people join us, they join us. If not, we've got enough here to do at least a couple of these. I'm Bobby Baggio. As soon as PowerPoint decides to load here, we'll have something to look at besides myself. I'm the Associate Dean of Graduate Programs and Online Learning with the School of Professional and Extended Studies. I'm happy to be here. And what I'd like to do, especially since we have such a small crowd, if we could just go real quickly, give me your name, your school, and your favorite ice cream. My favorite ice cream is chocolate espresso. You know, the coffee ice cream with the dark chocolate.
Ice cream. So my
name, school, ice cream. Quick. Okay. This is a procedure that I'm going to give you. You can feel free to duplicate any of it, to use any of it, to use all of it. It's a process that can be used for a lesson. It can be used for an entire class. It can be used for a unit. It can be used for your entire course. So how you apply it is really up to you. There's a formula behind this. There is a ton of research behind this. It works. It is a specific kind of learning. You don't have to take notes. Everything is in the packet that I'm gonna send to you. If you sign the thing, we'll send it to you in the email. And we're about to give you folks some packets because me talking about problem-based learning is not going to really help you learn how to do this. So we're going to do some problem-based learning. One of the things you have to understand in the learning sciences is we have a challenge with verbiage. So you'll hear PBL used a lot. You'll hear problem-centered learning used a lot. There are a lot of different names for the same kind of approach. And then sometimes we call things the same and they're really different. This particular PBL was developed specifically from NASA after the space shuttle. And the reason it was developed is one of the things that they realized is people did not ask the right questions. It takes a long time to put a space shuttle up. It takes $25 million in over 10 years to bring a drug to market in the pharmaceutical industry. So in places where asking the question is key, for people to understand how to think to ask the question, that's where this works really, really well. Can you use it for teaching the War of 1812? You can. You have to be a little more creative. So let's get started. And so it's all about problem-based learning. This is not problem-centered learning. This is not David R. Merle. This is problem-based learning. This is myself and my staff. Stephanie Brookstein is the assistant dean in online learning. And so we're here. There's our email addresses if you want us. And so when we look at, I guess we ought to do this here. When we look at these different industries where this is more and more widely used, what can you tell me? What can you tell me about what do they have in common? What do these folks have in common? What does the pharma industry have in common with the law enforcement industry? Have in common with NASA? Response time? Yeah.
They're going into the unknown. They're trying to solve something that hasn't been, there's no precedent.
Absolutely. They're on the leading edge. They're exploring boundaries that have not been explored before. So it's very important that they get people above the knowledge level. Now, I thought about putting Bloom's taxonomy verbs in here for you, but you can Google those, and there's a million of them. This particular instructional technique will get people to analysis, synthesis, and evaluation very quickly. That's what they need to do this. So for industries like the ones that you see up here, it's a very effective technique. Okay, so what is it for? We use real-life problems to become accurate in knowledge. And here's what we want to accomplish. We want to demonstrate, in other words, you're going to demonstrate, how we use real-life problems to accelerate and deepen learning using the method called problem-based learning. And that's one of the things that's important about this, is it's deep learning. It is not knowledge level. It is not just comprehension level. It's deep learning. So in order to do that, does anybody here have experience in PBL? Yeah? Have you ever facilitated like a PBL?
Second class.
Yeah. What did you find to be the most difficult?
Keeping my mouth shut.
You really have facilitated PBL, because people will tell me that, and then it's for most SMEs, which is a subject matter expert, or teachers or professors or whatever, one of the most difficult things the first couple times you do it is to zip your mouth and just let it unfold, kind of guide it. The process I'm going to give you today is a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, jigsaw, when we talk about jigsaw in instruction, we have different people playing different roles, and then we all put it all together into a whole. Again, you can use this on one assignment. You can use this for an entire class. You could have a jigsaw on the whole unit. So, anybody here ever taken a course that they were taught using PBL? No? All right. So we're here to learn. You know, it's the old I hear and I forget, I see, I remember, I do, and I understand. You know? So we're about to do here. This is the PBL cycle. This is one of those things, don't overthink it. Just do what it is. You know, we're going to start with a core problem. We're going to talk about, in small groups, what we need to do to solve the problem. How will we learn what we need to do to know to solve the problem? Gather information, come back and report the information, present and discuss what we've learned, integrate the new information, determine the best solution. Participants proceed to the next part of the problem. So it's a structured approach. There are designated roles in this approach. And it's kind of easy to do. It's a great thing to do online. So if you're wondering, you want to prepare for a snow day exercise that's coming up, and you're going to use some sort of synchronous platform, this works wonderfully because it creates interaction. You have to talk. You have to collaborate. There is no choice. So what we're going to do is Steph is going to pass out. You might as well pass them all out, I guess. And we need little groups. We need groups of about 4 people, 5 people. Maybe you folks right here could do it, and you folks in the back could do it. This side of the room could become a group. And you folks, since there's 3 of you right there, can maybe turn the table and face and become a group. There are...
I think we're like 3 short.
For everybody to get one?
Yeah,
you can use that. There are 3 case studies in there. 3 problem-based learning scenarios.
Okay.
And everyone in the group has a role. Again, there's no brainstorming here yet. Somebody plays the discussion leader. Somebody plays the scribe. Someone takes on the role of the reporter, which means you're going to get up and report on what your group has done to us at the end. And somebody is the skeptic. Your job as the skeptic is to play the devil's advocate. So what I would suggest is that since we have a group of 3 in a couple of these, someone take the lead, someone take the job of scribe and reporter, and someone takes the job of the devil's advocate. Now, there are 3 case studies in there. One is on a Japanese executive. One is on Chief Information Officer. And the third one is creating a public speaking course. I just want to make sure that we get all 3 of them, because there's such diverse content covered when you guys present. So I'll give you about a minute and a half and pick one in your group. And then you can tell Steph or I what roles you're going to play. All right, we have one of the Japanese. All right, so we've got both the Japanese. You've got CIO or the public speaking course, folks. You got the CIO.
Right? Exactly.
All right, folks. If I could have your attention back up here, if you could kind of wrap up. We want to give each group a chance to present what they found, each kind of mini team that we put together here. And then we want to talk about why this method works and how you can use it pretty much the way it stands. Again, you don't have to put in a lot of extra thought into the method here. Put the thought into the content, put the thought into the examples. The method will work. For our folks that had the Japanese delegation, we will hear from you folks first. Whoever was the recorder, would you like to read the case quickly for us and then tell us what questions and responses you asked and came up with, and how the relationship between the leader, the devil's advocate, and yourself played out?
I'm Alan Ford. You are an executive with a company that is taking a product global for the first time. You just found out that you will have a presentation meeting with a group of executives from Japan, from Tokyo, Japan. This is their first time dealing with a firm in the United States, and you want to make sure that they're comfortable with you and therefore are more likely to do business. We identified that we spent a few minutes talking about the issues that we saw in this, and cultural expectations was a major element that we discussed in many facets: language, behavior, expectations. We did not clearly take enough time to read the case study because we missed that they were coming to us from Japan. So we asked questions that we did not need to ask because the answer was already in front of us. We identified the kinds of things that we would like to know, including executive intelligence, find out who the executives are who are coming, find out what we can about them, their position, their expectations, their education, so that we can try to adapt ourselves to those issues. We identified that there were many issues with appropriate behavior, expectations that we need to know about what they expect, including things such as gender dynamics, age dynamics, social behaviors, cultural behaviors, how the meeting should be structured, those kinds of things.
Awesome. Just real briefly, because we'll kind of summarize the different roles at the end. As a devil's advocate, how was your role? How'd your role go?
Well, since I contributed to what the things we needed to know, it was kind of a little difficult to be a devil's advocate and step back. But,
all right.
I think just trying to do that, some of the issues came up, was who approached who about this meeting? Yeah, they're coming, but who initiated the meeting, and that would give some sense of what the motivations are and what the incentives are to reach a deal. So.
Good, excellent. All right, the second group. You don't have to read the case since we already had them read the case. Just give us
Well, I was going to
the
change
experience.
it a little bit and maybe do a little different flavor and see, in my audition, how it would work. I'm Larry Engel. I'm an SOC. Very similar outcomes in terms of the cultural sensitivity, the issues with the group and the group dynamics. We wanted to learn more about the relationship within the group that's coming, what the dynamics are. We wanted to better understand how meetings run like this from a Japanese point of view, from a business and cultural point of view. We ranged from thinking about if there were a PowerPoint, is that appropriate? Is that acceptable? Is that frowned on? How formal an agenda is there to be, and how does that flow? What language would that PowerPoint possibly be in? Would it be insulting for it to be in Japanese, or would it be better to be in Japanese? So we needed to do research there. When do we ask for feedback? Do you like the product? Is that a direct question that's appropriate? So the subtleties of the cultural interactions were extremely important. How could we pick up? Well, this is all about what we don't know, right? What we need to know. How do we read answers? How do we greet? How do we assess nonverbal communication? How do you hand over business cards? It's different in Japan than it is here. Bowing is a tradition of deference. Let's see. What kind of goals do we set up for the meeting? Are they loose? Are they concrete? What do we do about food? What language level are we engaging in with them? Do we need a translator? What are the possible cost benefits of going into a deal on the product from the Japanese point of view?
Awesome. How about the devil's advocate in that group? You were the devil's advocate?
Yeah. Well, I think if we were business experts, we would really have to hire a cultural expert, and we would really have to find information on how to do business in a different place, what kind of gestures, basically how not to offend them, and how to have an advantage for us. And I know there are companies that will dedicate themselves to provide you a cultural profile. So I think we should really do that first, and then if we are the experts on doing the business, then we know how to do the rest of the thing.
Good,
Because
good.
we don't really know enough.
All right, our folks in the back, the new CIOs, could you read just briefly your thing there, and then tell us what questions you thought you needed to ask her?
Okay, so you are the new CIO at a large university. You will be giving a presentation with the Board of Trustees to describe the new IT initiatives, including the deliverables. This is their first time meeting with you. How will you explain to the stakeholders the alignment of deliverables and objectives? How will you gain their confidence and trust? So we had 3 categories of questions. The first one was, what are the possible issues? What questions do we anticipate getting? So how much will it cost was a big one. Why are we upgrading? What will this new system provide us that's an improvement over what we have now, and how will that align with the objectives of the university? Do you, as the CIO, have experience with implementing new IT systems? Will there be training provided and so forth? And these questions are kind of tied into the next part, which is, what do you need to find out about the Board of Trustees? So we wonder who is on the board, what are their personalities and backgrounds, do they have certain agendas, are there particular people that we're definitely going to anticipate certain types of questions from, and so forth. And then finally, the last question was kind of about the business culture and how we as the new CIO could kind of interact best with the people. So we talked about
answer some of
So as you folks are coming in, we're going to wrap up here. I would love to have had the other groups spend a little more time presenting, because I think that's a learning experience. Again, folks, anything that's here in terms of duplicating the cycle is, this is just a little cartoon. But the cycle of PBL takes the mystery out of this. If you do this in a classroom, you do this as an online exercise, follow, give people the cycle to follow. And this does have objectives. It's not like there's no objective to this. It's mastery of the content, developing critical thinking skills, developing lifelong learning skills. It's knowing how to ask the critical questions, not finding the answers. And just in this little exercise here, we had a lot of collaboration, team building, and you get to see how the interactions help people get to know their colleagues. And we know from research the most powerful learning is peer-to-peer learning. So, again, it's a fresh approach. It's a different approach. Do you have to use it for everything? Absolutely not. But, this is a great little kind of thing to have in your back pocket to pull out when things get dull. You got a snow day. You're wondering, okay, what can I do online that's going to get these people to work and get them interacting? Because there is nothing worse online than listening to an hour lecture. I mean, people will be on their cell phones. They will be petting their dog. They will be eating peanut butter sandwiches. So, again, the rest of this you can go over. Here's why it works so well online. It creates the interaction. It creates learner-to-learner engagement. It gets them involved. There's no mystery. They're out there in virtual world. There's no mystery as to what I do here. There's a structured approach. We ask these questions. We follow this cycle. We report. We get feedback from each other. Our devil's advocate comes in and says, have you thought about it this way? Are we sure we've done that, what we need to do? And then you come back to structure, so you're not lost out there in the virtual environment. And it sets very clear expectations of what you're going to do for this hour. So it doesn't allow room to go get the peanut butter sandwich and change the laundry. It's excellent for promoting interaction. We're going to wind up real quick. I hope everybody enjoyed the fire drill.